Alright, folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Tornado Tony Pentecow.
And Psychic Tom Edge taking the cover off the psychic crystal ball.
Right. And it's going to be the last episode of 2018 here, so I'm going to try to do a little year in review at some point. But, of course, the hot news this week, and something I bet you guys, if you've heard about it, know that I've been itching to rip into the UFC for, is the special treatments they're given to this Jon Jones fight. That is probably legitimately unprecedented, unless you consider them having to change venues with the legalization issue back in the early days of the UFC. But here we have a situation where Jon Jones headed up to his rematch with Alexander Gustafsson for the light heavyweight title. His first fight back from his suspension. They test him as they would test somebody like that, and it comes back with a reading that shows picograms of this turinabol or something like that. That's turinabol or something like that. I don't know the exact pronunciation, but anyway, this is what he got popped with before, so they're saying there's no way to determine whether this is a fresh pop or a pop of old stuff still in the system. Either way, they're saying that it's not performance enhancing, whatever it is. It's too little amount. But because of the situation, they want to do further investigation, so they're shutting down the show on his fight in Nevada because they're not going to give him a license. So what does the UFC do? They say, oh yeah, it's easy, we'll just move to California. So, little does everybody know that thinks, oh yeah, they're telling the truth about that. It's not a big deal. Just move it to California. Everybody will be happy. Well, now we have a situation where because Jon Jones fucked up in the first place and took the shit, he puts everybody in this position now where they've already planned for all their family and trainers and everybody to fly into Vegas. They've got those costs down. All these fighters that are going to be fighting in this event. They've got all their tickets paid, in advance. Everything's got to be paid in advance and booked. Now they've got to make the trip from Vegas to California on top of this. And they're not getting any extra money. Then, if that ain't friggin' bad enough, they're calling it the jock tax in California. But basically, this is for anybody who's self-employed. They face a 30% income tax in the state. 30% of the income that you make in that state is taxed. So they're obviously independent contractors in the UFC. And you know what announcement I'd love to see is Dana White open his fat mouth and say, hey, we're going to cover all your extra expenses that you had to incur because of this shit show. But that ain't going to happen because he's a greedy fuck and that's how he operates. That's how he rolls. He's we're gonna cater to Jon Jones. We're gonna go out there and we're gonna say, oh no, this is not a positive test. That's another thing he did. He went out of his way to say, oh, this is not something Jon Jones fucked up on. This is the Nevada State Athletic Commission's fault. So yeah, just totally classless for them to do this stuff. Now, I'm sure it's gonna save a great card, but at the same time, step up to the plate for once, people. Like, that is ridiculous to put your people through that kind of thing and not say, hey, we're going to cover your expenses, the extra stuff you have to pay because we fucked up. Just ridiculous. Jon Jones should have to pay it. But UFC, Jon Jones is the one who caused it all. And if he can't pay it, then the UFC should pay it. So that's my...
Well, that sounds utopian because I agree with every word you just said. But and I know what the truth's going to be, as it always is. And furthermore, anyone that speaks out and says, no, I'm not going to go there unless I'm reimbursed, well, there's the contract with the UFC going.
Right. Yeah. And, you might see a little, after situations like this, you might see a lot of those fighters that went through this start to question the next contract signing. whether they should put their signature on that. So, I don't know. It's just it's one of those little things that just bothered me right away when I heard about that 30% tax. You know, it's one thing if you've prepared for that, but you know, you set yourself up or you've budgeted everything. And we've seen the tight budgets these people on. We even had an Ultimate Fighter episode with a fighter who was living out of his car. So you can't tell me they don't know that fighters struggle to get by.
Now, I wonder how they'll do that. I don't think they'll take the money out then. They'll assume that the guys will report that on their tax return. So this system should be okay. They don't really. I don't think have any jurisdiction over Sweden. I wouldn't think.
Mm-hmm.
But in this country, California is atrocious. They will come after you,
right?
With fangs bared, and they're probably right behind New York. I don't know. It's kind of one of those horrible draws. Flip a coin, but Illinois is terrible too on the state tax stuff. Just extremely aggressive. So it's very bad news for the Americans.
All right. So, pretty crazy. One person, Dave Doyle, MMA on Twitter said, meanwhile, UFC 232 fighters are losing, depending on their income bracket, somewhere between 9.25 to 13% of their whole purses due to the card being moved. So that's a little different. But this is known as a jock tax, where visiting athletes as considered employees generating income while working in California. Well, visiting athletes are considered employees, I think is what that sentence meant to show, but it says it like that.
Yeah, and if that's not reported, they can put a lien on it, and their liens are like 20 years. It's just awful.
And that's just state
terrible.
Taxes, but that doesn't.
Right.
But this doesn't mention the 30% independent contractor tax that they have there.
Well, there are some preparers that can help them out with that.
Oh,
I'm always available.
Tom's trying to get business. Call 1-800. Get your taxes.
Yes.
Anyway, good news on the boxing front. I know Tony was keeping us abreast of the situation. Adonis Stevenson is awake and responsive. We don't know still what his ultimate prognosis is going to be, or his long-term condition, but obviously awake and starting to come out of it, literally. So it's interesting to see, and obviously great news. But still don't think he'll ever box again. And
oh no, I mean he'll never box again. And now basically what you got to hope is just that he is able to recover and have a quality of life better than guys like Daryl McClellan and a couple other fighters. Kid Akeem back in 1990 when that happened. Other fighters have very poor quality of life, and you just gotta hope and pray that not only does he recover and survive, but he has a good quality of life.
Yep. And speaking of quality of life, I guess yours improved when you finally found yourself in the movie. The Creed movie. I saw that on Facebook when you first posted it.
Yeah.
Great scene to be in the background of, too. I mean, that's...
Yeah, it was funny. I went to see it the first time, and I didn't see it myself, but I kind of knew they panned where I was sitting. And one of our former guests that we had when I first was the co-host of the show was Larry Tornati, who was a ring announcer and former boxer. And Larry messaged me because I saw you clear as day doing what you do best, yelling.
You can see your teeth.
When I went to see it the second time, and I was doing words on the canvas, and I look back there, and I'm like, I see the girl that I'm sitting next to. Her name is Cheryl. And oh shit, there's Cheryl. And I'm like, and there I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm like, beautiful. And then just by chance, Danny Davis, who's a boxing trainer out of Philly, who I know, who I was hanging out with in wardrobe that day because he played in that fight scene one of Adonis Creed's cornermen. He's the guy in the red hat, and he's like, cheering, after the knockout. And he posted a clip on there from Andre Ward on the canvas, and then after when it was over, and Michael B. Jordan standing on the ropes, and Danny Davis is cheering him. So when he posts that clip, I look at it and I'm like, and there I am. So I paused it and I did a couple screenshots, and I posted those on social media as well. And I just sent them to both you guys.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it on Facebook first, though.
So it was cool. It kind of makes up. And I know Tom. I wasn't even on the show with you guys at this time. This was long ago, and long before I ever, really knew Rich and Tom. Long before I knew you. But this was kind of a redemption for me from the disappointment of the Rocky Balboa movie 12 years ago. That one really, it stung me, and it was like, because I'm not a professional in the industry, and so I know, hey, a lot of these guys go through a lot of rejections and all that. This was one that was like a one-time thing for me, and I really was hoping for it. It was like a dream for me, and when I didn't get a part that I read for, even though I'm not an actor, I was like, I kind of got my hopes up for that, and then it fell through. And then I got to be on the set, and I was there, and I actually filmed. I was in front of the camera, and I felt so good about myself. And then to have my part cut out, I was like, and I'm seeing all these other people, they got picked over me, and I'm like, why did they get picked over me? Mm-hmm. And even my cousin, who I really don't even talk to anymore, we had a falling out. But he said to me, he goes, maybe it's because you're younger than Sylvester Stallone, you can actually box, and maybe he doesn't want you showing him up doing his routine on the art museum steps. And was he saying that maybe just to soften the blow? Maybe. But this was a little bit of a redemption for me, where I can always say, I can point there and say, I finally made it.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, sometimes it's, even if the meal's cold, it's still the meal.
Yeah, exactly.
Part of Rocky movie history, Tony.
Yeah, hey, it's a battle sometimes, and sometimes you gotta let to, like you said, in Rocky Balboa, it's like, not as hard how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get it. Mm-hmm. Right. Keep going forward. I'm like, you know what, you're right.
And be persistent.
Yeah.
Most people don't have stamina. It's instant gratification.
Another funny thing is, I had been off for a couple days, and actually I was under the weather a few days because I've been working so much doing the Christmas trees and doing various Santa Claus appearances here and there and doing this and doing that. So finally, when the holidays were, running the day before Christmas Eve, I was exhausted. I actually didn't go into the lot that day because we were pretty much done, and I didn't have anything left in the tank. And Christmas Eve I probably should have slept in, but I didn't. And then Christmas Eve night, I definitely shouldn't have drank a whole bottle of champagne, but I did. And finally, Christmas Day, I was done. I mean, I was spent. And coming up to my greatest favorite holiday in the whole world, and I put it on Facebook every year, that on December 25th, I said the night before Christmas Eve, a lot of kids are not able to sleep because they're so excited. I said, December 25th is the night I'm not able to sleep because of what the next day brings. And I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, that's right. It's Boxing Day. It's my favorite holiday of the year. And I said, I always celebrate in my way, and that's by wearing my trunks and robes and going around in public shadow boxing and going up the rain old people and saying, cut me Mick. And are you serious? That's not even a day to celebrate the sport of boxing. It's a Canadian holiday. And I'm like, I know. I'm being a smartass. I know what the hell it is. I'm just being stupid. But my big holiday this year I spent in bed. Like, how ridiculous is that?
Hey, I gave a couple shout-outs to you.
I saw on Giancarlo's post where I commented, and I'm like, you're damn right, I'd go to a fight on Boxing Day. You're damn right, no.
Yeah, he was legitimately asking people, but my favorite comment on that, of all the comments, was, does that mean weigh-in on Christmas Day?
Yeah, right. Hey, the quarterback can fight a Rocky was Christmas Day. But I want to look at that too, in Moscow.
Yeah. So anyway, Boxing Day, yeah. I had a good Boxing Day. boxed up. We ate all the boxed up lasagna from the night before. It was a good day. Anyway, another boxing story that's making the rounds this week is the Charlo brothers last week. I actually did watch this card, believe it or not. I watched boxing. Jermell and Jamal. Well, you can't really tell them apart other than the one letter in their name. And different opponents this night, but one of them apparently pissed off the judges because Jermell got the short end of the stick on a decision against Tony Harrison. And I really didn't see anything bad from Jermell except for a little bit of a lack of defense, lack of, pulling his punches back quick enough. But I thought he outworked Harrison for sure and should have got the decision. I wasn't really watching it super close. I watched the main event more close because it was, pretty close to the knockout in the final round. But Jermell and Jamal both had great performances, but Tony Harrison somehow walked away with a decision there, and Jermell lost the title too in that one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's really that bad of a decision. Maybe I'd have to rewatch it and see what the judges saw that I didn't see, but. Yeah, I think a lot of people were just dismayed at that. They just did not know what was going on.
Ironically, Teddy Atlas came out and said that he agreed with the decision.
Really?
You guys can believe that. Yeah, I just read that today. How about that?
Well, he probably rewatched it then. I don't know. I mean, maybe they were impressed with Harrison's better defense. He didn't really seem to be hurt by whatever Charlo threw that was a bomb to him. Who knows?
I didn't get to see the fights because I worked all day, came home, and I had to run out to do the appearance that night. From what I heard was the first, and I always confuse Charlo's, Jermell, and Jamal. It's like Travis and Hardison. Why do you do this to me? Right? But the first fight, which was against a late substitute after Willie Monroe, I don't know, he backed out or he failed a drug test or something, but he got booted out of the fight. They put in a late substitute, Matt Korobov, and a lot of people thought Korobov should have gotten that decision. So now, when you have, especially, you would see it any time if it's like, I would see it in college. It's almost like if you have like two teammates, like say like Lockhaven University, we're fighting, and we have a couple fights, and we're at Penn State for the regionals. And the first fight is a real close fight, and the Lockhaven guy gets it, and the crowd's all unruly, and the people are pissed off. Well, you can better believe that second fight, you better dominate the Penn State fighter, because it's almost like a retaliation. It's like it's hockey. It's like, oh, the one team gets a bad call, well then the referees are going to give a make-up call. And from what I heard, a lot of people thought Corbin won the fight over Charlo and did not get the decision. So now, on the other fight, that could have been a 6-foot back. A close fight, they gave it to Harrison.
Right. Yeah, so I don't know, but yeah, it got me to watch boxing, and then I was like, all right, well, I gave it a chance.
Before that fight card, there were some people talking. I don't know, a few months ago there was discussion, and once again, I apologize for getting the Charlos confused. I forget which one it was again, Mel or Mal. But they were talking about a potential fight with Danny Jacobs. And I remember saying, it was on a forum somewhere, and I said, I had Jacobs winning that fight. Hey, I'm not saying the Charlos are not talented and they're not good punchers and they don't have skills. But at the same time, I think Danny's character is what would win that fight. Because I know what he can do when the chips are down. I mean, and he's done it not just in the ring, but in life. And I said, I don't know if in a, back and forth fight like that, how Charlo would respond. I know how Jacobs would. And people say, no, you're just counting this guy's skills, and you're just counting this. And I'm like, and maybe I am. But I see something that tells me right off the bat that I think Jacobs wins, and by knockout. And now, after those two fights, there was a post just today, or possibly on the same forum, and it said, how would you feel against either of the Charlos against Triple G, Danny Jacobs, or Canelo Alvarez? And a lot of the same people that were giving the really riding the Charlos before are now kind of stepping back and saying, you know what? I'm not sure. And a lot of the people that were, favoring Jacobs in the first fight were saying all three of those fighters would likely score knockouts over the Charlos.
That show was meant to showcase them.
Yes.
There was no question, and in the main event, we had a guy who normally fights light heavyweight, and he was dropping down to 168. Then he had to drop all the way down to middleweight. He's 35 years old, had to take off a ton of weight pretty quick. Didn't have a big punch, and he still couldn't get him out. And in the first fight, so let's just say their stock went down somewhat.
Absolutely.
Well, there you have it, the expert layout. Anyway, we also had sort of an upset, I guess Martin Murray there over in the UK. 37-5 now. Lost the fight to Hassan Jukam over in Manchester. I mean, at least it was an upset because he was the hometown guy. At middleweight. It was for the WBC silver middleweight title. Lost a majority decision there in Manchester Arena to Hassan Jukam. Say that 12 times fast.
The name that rhymes.
Mm-hmm. And that was pretty much it for the big fights last week. And believe it or not, we've got absolutely crap for fights this week. I mean, it's tough to find any. No, there's a lot of them, but there's just there's no big title fights, I guess, because of the New Year's Eve coming up, and I guess nobody wants to schedule fights during the holiday week. But I mean, we got UFC on weekend, but boxing match over in Trinidad though. We got Saul Farah in action at heavyweight. He's got a record of 67-23-3, fighting Jorge David Urquiza Anez, who is 7-4. That's the mismatch of the week, I believe. There. That's it. That's Saturday. That's the biggest fight on Saturday, 29th of December. Well, we got a female fight in Argentina. Guadalupe Bautista, 12-10-2, fighting Evelyn Nazarena Bermudez, who's undefeated 10-0 for the IBF World Female Light Flyweight title. And we got Daniela Romina Bermudez, 23-3 with 3 draws, fighting Yolis Marugo Franco, who's 23-10-4. That one's for the WBO World Female Bantamweight title. Bantamweight. All right. That's it. And there's actually more fights on Sunday this week, I believe, than there is on Saturday. That's like the smallest Saturday boxing calendar I've seen in forever. Anyway, yeah, Sunday. Sunday. Alright, the vacant Czech lightweight is on the line. Michael Dufek, 25-19-2, fighting Martin Parlagi, 24-2-1 over in the Czech Republic there. That's on Sunday. Tokyo, Japan, they like that fight's on Sunday. Evgeny Chuprikov, he is 20-0, fighting Masayuki Ito, who is 24-1-1 for the WBO World Super Featherweight title. And light flyweights, Ken Shiro, 14-0, fighting Saul Juarez, 24-8-2 for the WBC World Light Flyweight title. And then Takuma Inoue, 12-0, fighting Tasana Salapat, 48-0. Creeping up on
Ooh.
Floyd.
Wonder who he's been fighting.
For the interim
see that record.
WBC World Bantamweight title. Salapat. Never heard of him. 48-0.
Wonder if we have some household names on there.
We got another fighter on card in Slovakia. Ladislav Nemeth. His record is 12-54-9. Fighting TBA. Another guy is 3-1, fighting Janos Petrovic, who is 25-92-2.
Wow.
Ridiculous. That's it for boxing. Scheduling. We got to look back at a couple of things we missed because we took a week off. Again, thanks to my crazy schedule. Ally Quinta versus Kevin Lee. I don't believe we ever talked about that fight. Quinta really definitely showed me some evolution and intelligence for sure in that fight. And Kevin Lee's cockiness obviously was not backed up at all. Al just beat him to a pulp.
Yeah, I had it even up going into the last round. And I just don't see the controversy in the decision on that. I mean, Raging Al just took over.
Yeah.
And what I was really impressed by, too, that he just was methodical in that last. Because, Al just wanted to rip the skin off Lee's face for all that stuff that he was saying, sending him back to the prelims. And he's a Jersey Shore guy that tears up hotel rooms. Well, I don't know if that made him mad, but there was bad blood there. But he just was so poised in that last round. And Lee was just beginning to get desperate. And so it was funny to see his face when the decision was announced. Yeah.
Well, the other one was a pretty brutal fight. Was the co-main event, Edson Barbouz versus Dan Hooker. And it was a body shot that ended it. But, I mean, it was just such a beating. And Dan stood in there and took it and just should have quit so many different times just for his own safety. But just kept taking shot after shot, leg kick after leg kick, body shot after body shot, and finally you could just tell he had either broken a rib or, just had the life sucked right out of him by pain. Because
or you even wonder if, he had some internal organ damage. Fortunately, he didn't. But, Tony, this was reminiscent of Roberto Duran and Davey Moore in one sense. That you wonder who's going to stop this. Okay, I mean we've got a referee that apparently is just going to let it keep going. The ringside doctor's not going to say anything. The coroner's not saying anything, and of course the fighter's not going to say anything. It was just an awful situation because it was pretty obvious that Hooker just did not have. He really didn't have a game plan. I mean, he didn't seem to have the physicality. He didn't really have much of a stand-up game. He was lurch-like as he was moving in. And then he did get him on the ground at one point, but he couldn't seem to capitalize on it. And that, by the end of the second round, I knew it was curtains for him.
Wow. Edson Barboza, Dan Hooker took him out 2 minutes and 19 seconds into the third round. So a lot of damage up to that point. And Edson did take some shots himself, but nothing like the overall damage that Hooker took. And just hope they'll come back and hope he'll not be too damaged mentally. He seemed like a pretty tough guy, so see what happens. Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of fight can either break you or make you, right? Can be that situation where, oh, geez, I just got totally dominated. I need to change my whole game and improve my
yeah, I was just questioning his strategy because he'd even said before he wanted to stand and bang with him. Well, Barbarossa, that's really you're playing into his hands,
right?
Or feet. Playing into his feet. That's a better analogy.
We also have Rob Font beating Sergio Pettis by unanimous decision. Charles Oliveira beating Jim Miller by rear naked choke. Another big mistake by Miller there, going into Oliveira's game and letting him roll around on the mat with him, because your wrestling can only take you so far when you get a guy that can put a rear naked choke on you like a freaking clip-on tie in the morning.
Yeah.
Put it right around your neck like nothing. So yeah, Jim only lasted a minute and 15 seconds. God love him, he tried, but Oliveira had a mission, and he completed it.
Yeah, you gotta kind of wonder where Miller goes. I mean, he's been around forever.
I mean, that one's not really embarrassing, or to me, it doesn't say hang it up, Jim, because you just got caught, and you got caught by a master of his game,
Yeah, no shame in that.
Nothing to do in situations like that. He was just on fire. He really was. Who knows? Maybe he had some picograms in him. No, he just had some kind of mission he was on. Just had to get that choke, or had to take him out early. He didn't want to go to war with Jim Miller. I think that was it. He knew Jim was capable of that, so he was just that determined to end it early. We also had Zach Otto beating Dwight Grant by split decision. Dakar Close beat Bobby Green into retirement by unanimous decision. Bobby Green retired after the fight. Joaquim Silva beat Jared Gordon by knockout 2 minutes and 39 seconds into round 3. Jack Hermanson beat Gerald Mearshart by guillotine choke in the first round, 4 minutes and 25 seconds into that one. Zach Cummings got another win over Trevor Smith, UD, unanimous decision. Dan Age beat Jordan Griffin by unanimous decision. Mike Rodriguez beat Adam Milstead by TKO from knee to the body and punches in 2 minutes and 59 seconds into round 1. Then the first fight of the night, Juan Adams beat Chris De La Roca by TKO 58 seconds into the third. So, we also had a Bellator card, McFarlane versus Letourneau there, 213 back in December 15th. McFarlane got the win. She stays undefeated, 10-0. Letourneau goes to 10-8. She got the win by triangle choke, 3 minutes and 19 seconds into the third. Lyoto Machida knocks his first win by split decision over Rafael Carvalho on that card. And big surprise, Ed Ruth lost to Neiman Gracie. But again, it was in his element. He brought it to rear naked choke. Went all the way to the fourth round, though. 2 minutes and 17 seconds into the fourth.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that. I may wind up signing up for a zone.
Yeah.
But I didn't get there. That would have been the fight of the night for me, because that was that old school clash styles. And I guess Ruth had good submission. That's so he didn't. But, Neiman Gracie is the nephew of Henzo.
Right.
Do a little check on his lineage. So he Henzo's nephew, but he comes from that family.
Right.
And I guess he's just extremely at a high level. So fun to watch.
And speaking of improving his game, Lee McGeary took out Muhammad Lawal there by TKO 53 seconds into the third round. All punches, so he's obviously improved his striking game a little bit. We won't go through the rest of them. No big names in the rest of that card. The big one we got to talk about, obviously, is this weekend. UFC 232. Jones versus Gustafsson. And of course, John Jones comes in with just the one loss by disqualification, 22 wins. Was actually to what is that? To Matt something? The deaf guy.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. He's been retired for a while. Kind of out of it. Yeah, he was on the Ultimate Fighter show.
So anyway, that was just one loss. It was a disqualification.
And by the way, Jones was winning that fight.
Right, Matt Hamill. Alexander Gustafsson comes in at 18-4, but he is widely known as the only man to beat John Jones other than Matt. because the first fight was so close, many people had it in Gustafsson favor. Now, I didn't really watch it too many times, but I think I watched it 2 or 3 times. And I just see John Jones just getting the edge, barely. But I agree with the decision.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling on it, too. You've really got to beat the champ. I mean, but let's just say it was close, far more competitive than most people thought would happen. Right. Far more competitive.
And, you know, whether or not these little picograms that John Jones has in the system are fresh or old, we may not know until January. But I'm sure the Nevada State Athletic Commission will look into it. Until they're afraid they'll lose the next card that he appears on, and then they'll straighten it out. But then there's the big co-main event here that might steal the show. We have Chris Cyborg going in against Amanda Nunes, and Cyborg comes in at 20-1. Nunes 16-4. And, you know, don't let those records fool you, because both of these girls are animals in the cage. Just absolute fierce, come at you, blow you away usually. Justino seems to have been basically toying with her last few opponents. Almost just to make it seem a little bit more interesting. But she's barely even taking a punch, and her opponent this time is no slouch. No cheap date, Tom says.
Well, I still have to go with Cyborg until she's beaten. I mean, she just seems to be on another level. No disrespect to Amanda, but she's going up in weight, and she's facing a monster.
And the one loss she has is also just the very first fight she had. Cyborg lost. Anyway, so that's going to be a big barn burner, for sure. I don't think that one's going to end early. Carlos Condit, in probably the fight of his career here, 30-12, 14-4 is his opponent, Michael Chiesa. And Carlos has had some ups and downs. A lot more downs lately than ups, though. So
yeah, I just don't think he's ever been the same since that Lawler fight, and that had to be as much mental as physical. I thought he did enough to win that fight.
Yeah,
horrible setback.
And then we got Corey Anderson versus Ilir Latifi. Corey is 11-4, Latifi 14-5. Should be a decent fight. Chad Mendes coming in at 18-4, fighting Alexander Volkanovski, who's 18-1. And then speaking of skis, we got Andrei Arlovsky back in action. He's 27-17, and talk about downs. He's just had a lot of them lately. I thought he was, best thing since sliced bread when I saw one of his fights where he was throwing little back fists like for style points, but he was actually landing good shots with them, and that kind of made me start throwing them more when I was training. But then, next few fights, it's just no trace of that stuff that worked for him. It's just everything's new, different, less effective. So I don't know why he would go away from stuff that worked for him, but he did. Anyway, Walt Harris is his opponent at 11-7, and we got Kat Zingano way down on the card. 10-3, fighting 8-3, Megan Anderson. Douglas Silva de Andrade, also on the card, 25-2, fighting Peter Yan, who is 10-1. And then there's BJ Penn. We talked about this on the last show, I believe. BJ Penn fighting Ryan Hall, 16-12-2 is BJ Penn. Ryan Hall is 6-1. And this is a long-term thing, according to BJ. He really wants to come back for 4 or 5 fights, I believe, was what he said. So
I wonder, if you have his record up there, I wonder how long has it been since he's won a fight?
I bet you are not the only person to answer that, so we're going to look it up. As we're waiting for that, Nathaniel Wood is the 4th fight of the night, 14-3, fighting Andre Ewell, who's 14-4. Uriah Hall, also on the card, he's the 3rd fight of the night, fighting 6-0 Bevon Lewis. And Bevon is so important they don't even have a shirt picture for him. Uriah Hall comes in at 13-9. We got Curtis Millender, who's 16-3. Zada, who is 24-6-1. First fight of the night, Brian Kelleher, 19-9, fighting Montel Jackson, who's 6-1. So a pretty stacked card. The final fight of the year, UFC. 16-12. Last time he won a fight. Would you care to guess who and when it was?
Well, it's got to be more than 5 years, I think. If I'm in the right time range.
Well, it's been more than 5 years since he had a draw, but it's been more than 8 years since he had a win.
Wow.
UFC 123, Rampage versus Machida. He beat Matt Hughes in 21 seconds. First round.
Wow.
21 seconds.
That's old school.
Yep. And since then, he's lost to Dennis Seaver. That was his last fight. Yair Rodriguez, Frankie Edgar, Roy McDonald, and Nick Diaz. And tied against Fitch. Majority
And
draw.
and his problem in this one is, have you seen Ryan Hall fight?
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah, and
Wild
BJ
style.
normally, in his prime, you really didn't want to go to the ground with BJ. I mean, he was not hesitant to take Matt Hughes down and score him. But BJ's prime happened in probably George Bush's first term. Wow. Well.
All right. Well, that does it for basically the schedule stuff. Of course, this is going to be our last show of the year, so I guess we should kind of do a wrap-up of, what was everybody's favorite moment of the year. For me, I guess I would have to say that Tyson Fury getting up off the canvas was my favorite combat sports moment of all time, pretty much. Definitely this year. Just the look on his face when he snapped out of it. I was like, wow, that is tough.
He is insane. That guy, like someone was saying, coming down from all that weight, he said, well, maybe that crazy bastard's just not affected by normal things that would destroy anyone else. He's just too damn crazy. Wow.
Well, I'll tell you, got me excited about heavyweight boxing again, so that's a good thing. Anyway, what do you guys think?
Well, let's see. I'm trying to think. My moment of the year. I mean, I'm a fight guy, so some of the sadder moments of the year. I'll tell you this. I mean, anytime, and I do have to mention. I just got the news a short while ago that one of the most colorful characters in boxing, Al Sarto, unknown. Best for being Buddy McGirt's trainer, passed away at the age of 90. And one thing I remember about Al, like I always said, like even Buddy said, Al was just a hard-nosed, old-school boxing guy. And I remember he was working Andrew Galata's corner when Galata was fighting Mike Tyson, circa 1999-ish maybe, and maybe 2000. And Galata was having one of his famous meltdowns, and goes back to the corner. And he's trying to quit, and Serta wouldn't let him. And he was trying to shove Galata's mouthpiece back in, and Galata just had a meltdown and basically just threw everything away and just quit right on the spot. And so I was trying to put his mouthpiece back in his mouth, I should have shoved it up his ass. But, anytime, in boxing, every beginning has an end. Every end has a beginning. And I guess the moment for me, and it's more of a low light than anything, would be HBO boxing after 45 years, I just remember so many times as a kid, when you didn't have the internet, and you didn't have, the digital cables like you do now, and you'd be relying on an old school TV guide. And I remember I think it would come out on Tuesday, the TV guide would come, and first thing I would do was I'd go to, every Saturday and Sunday to look at the sports and try to see what was coming up on HBO, or infrequently at the time, and becoming more and more infrequently, was the afternoon network fights. You'd get them here and there, but you had HBO. It was almost a go-to. It was something reliable, like Jim Lampley, and I know we bust on them sometimes, Larry Merchant. But they came into your living rooms, and it was like they became almost like part of the family. The same thing was like when USA got rid of Tuesday night fights back in was it like 1998, and it was like you had guys that became your family, like Al Albert, Sean O'Grady. They were family. It was like you sat down and they, when you sat with them, you just listened and you just understood, and you could feel it. Like you felt like you were like inviting them over just to watch fights with you. Right. Like your favorite uncle that knew boxing was coming over, and you were going to watch it with them. And that's kind of like what you got with Lampley and Merchant. And unfortunately now you hear that Showtime might be following suit, and that's scary for some of us older school guys, because with the new generations, and the new waves that are coming on. And I'm sure that the generation before us, when things were going to pay-per-view, that was scary to them, because that was something that maybe they weren't familiar with, and they were going to lose access to something that they love. Now you got guys like me that say everything's going to apps, and I don't know what I'm going to do. Much less for guys like my dad. But those doors closing is a sad thing, and hopefully the doors that are opening will be bigger, better, and brighter.
Yeah, that's that's so true, because I find myself even playing the HBO boxing theme song sometimes on the internet. It's on YouTube. Brings back so many memories.
It was funny because it was like after HBO had gotten rid of the boxing, they had the last card, just a few weeks ago, and it was right around the same weekend people wanted to see Creed 2, and they basically pulling off an HBO boxing format. They were doing the HBO, behind, what was it, HBO 24/7. They were doing that, and it was an HBO pay-per-view broadcast. And I'm like, wow, they're basically butting off of something that's technically obsolete right now.
Yeah, it's some great memories from HBO boxing too. And of course, growing up in the Tyson era, I watched a lot of his fights on that. And my dad, who wasn't really a huge boxing fan, his father boxed, but he never boxed, I don't think, himself. He used to watch all the Tyson fights with me, and I'll never forget one of them on the undercard. Julio Cesar Chavez was fighting some black guy. I don't know the exact name, forgive me, but of course my father, being sort of a racist cop, says, "Oh, the gorilla's gonna kick the Mexican's ass." I say, "Oh yeah, I don't think so, Dad. This guy's good." And Julio gave him a clinic, basically. But it was funny. That was probably my first boxing lesson I gave to my dad. Who's going to beat who. But yeah, that was always a good broadcast, and they always put on a good show. And they had Tyson, in the height of his popularity. So they were doing something right then, and they can't make it work now. And it is a changing world for all intents and purposes. Yeah, I guess we all gotta go get tablets. Start uploading apps. And I can't even figure out how to get apps on my phone half the time. Never mind. I'll start messing with tablets, but it is what it is. Gotta step up and figure it out. But anyway, what about you, Tom? You got any year in review thoughts?
Well, the year started off good, from my viewpoint, with Stipe making that great defense in your hometown.
Mm-hmm. All right.
The year went bad in July. So those were kind of my ups and downs, with my old homie. So, aside from that, I guess there were some some good developments. Maybe with the UFC and this ESPN deal, we'll see how that works out. And I think with Dawson, I think that's going to be a pretty good deal. I guess it's $10 a month, and you can get just about everything. Except the UFC's not on Dawson.
No.
So that'll be a whole other thing, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, the interesting thing with that is going to be if, like Michael Buffer says in the commercial, if pay-per-view is really screwed because of this. Because, the streaming services, yeah, they're great for a lot of people, but like Tony said, there's a lot of people that are going to be like, screw that. I want my old school format too.
Yeah.
And what pisses me off is stuff like Instagram. You can't use it on a computer. You cannot take a laptop and go on Instagram and do anything. It's like, what is the point of that shit? Like, a lot of people like me are going to be pissed off if they got a service that you can only access with a tablet or some super sophisticated new smartphone. It's just some of the old school stuff has got to stick around to keep people interested. But the other thing is, I don't know how DAZN is going to be able to deal with people streaming on these free streaming sites. Are they going to be able to get around that? We're going to find out. I haven't checked for those fight cards that have been on DAZN from Bellator, but I bet if I did, I would have found them on the streaming sites I use. But anyway, maybe we'll get with the program someday and figure it all out. But for right now, I got enough technology as it is. I'll keep watching fights for free. I'll deal with the lag and the breakdowns and the resets. Because then there's other sites that you can find the fights afterwards for free. All recorded. Anyway.
Yeah, then a lot of them even get on YouTube real brief before they're taken down.
Mm-hmm.
So, technology marches on.
It was funny. One of the first times I ever watched a fight on Facebook Live. And it was over a year ago because it was Cinco de Mayo weekend, I guess 2 years ago, when Canelo was fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And at first I'm like, this has potential to be a good fight. And I remember, I forget who said to me, they're like, Chavez ain't gonna show up. And I'm like, what you think? And I'm like, and I was about to order, and I'm like, and then something said to me, I'm like, you know what? They got a point. And I just remember going on my phone, and I'm like, somebody actually had the fight, and they had their phone, and they were actually just videoing their TV, but they were doing their own commentary, and it was funny shit, and the picture was clear, and I'm watching it on Facebook Live, and I'm cracking with these two guys, like they're watching the fight, they're like, man, his father's going to ask for a DNA test to deny lineage to that kid, and I'm like, this is better than the characters. I'm like, I'm watching this for free, and it's fucking hilarious.
Mm-hmm. It's like a science fiction mystery theater or whatever the heck it was. The little dolls in the corner commentating on the movies.
Yeah, those little machines and mechanical robots are
Well, technically, that makes it your own performance, your own art, right? When you do that. So, technically, they could have put that on YouTube afterwards, and they couldn't have told them to take it down. Because even though it's somebody else's copyrighted material in the background, it's still your work in the front. So it's one of those catch-22 areas, I think. Yeah, everybody will figure out a way to get around it eventually. There will always be free stuff.
I was like, the ones I remember, and it's like, it's like, especially when they have like the cable boxes back in the day. If you didn't have it, and I know a lot of kids used to deal with the dirty channels, but for when I was in school, when I was in college, I didn't have the HBO channels. We didn't get them in our dorm room. We had 35 channels But I remember one of the ones I listened to through the squibby lines was George Foreman's knockout of Michael Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And before we
I was watching that live.
Well, I think I was still in college when we finally got Showtime. We didn't have Showtime for a long time. We had HBO. So a lot of times there were Showtime fights. Sometimes we get invited over to my dad's friend's house, and we would reciprocate for HBO. We had HBO. We'd invite them over, vice versa with Showtime. But there were other times I did the Showtime scored me lines by one of the fights, and then when you had the actual cable boxes, the actual big ass boxes, and they started making them like fiber optic or whatever. So Philadelphia, the black boxes didn't work anymore. But my friend had one that didn't work in Philadelphia, still worked in Brookhaven. So he would load it up, and then he would loan it to me for a lot of the big fights.
Nice.
Or the wrestling pay-per-views, he'd loan it to me for WrestleMania and shit. Or we'd all go to his dorm and we watch some of the NHL games that we could get on our college, cable package. So there's always going to be a way. So it's like if they, like I said, they got rid of the black boxes, we came up with something else. They did this. There's a counter to everything. Mm-hmm. For every move, there's an equal and opposite counter move.
Right, you are. And let's see what else what was the biggest story this year we didn't talk about? Well, Conor McGregor losing again. That was pretty big. And his future. He's signed a big contract before that too. So he also started his whiskey company, which he got advertised in the Octagon. So you talk about some bargaining power. Even I've never seen somebody lose and have such amazing bargaining power afterwards. Like first he loses to Floyd, then he loses to Khabib, and the kid can still literally plan his own future. So I mean, more power to him. But
you look at it like this, Rich. It's like what was it? What was the movie? The first Major League, and that the Charlie Sheen character. And when you do really bad in the beginning, and the guy asks for his autograph, and he goes, I think Tom Berenger was like, "Oh, you're famous." He says, "You have to do something good to be famous." He goes, "Not if you do it colorfully." You know what? If you are a fighter, hey, granted, you got to be good. You got to be a good fighter. To back a lot of it up and get it out there. But after a while, you got to be that marketable guy as well. So not only are you good, you take a guy like, perfect example. I'll give you two names: Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali. They were both very good fighters, but at the same time, they marketed themselves so much more by being so colorful. Those are guys. They became household names because of their charisma. The fact they could fight helped out a lot. And here's a great example. Ali loses to Joe Frazier. Leonard loses to Duran. Did that diminish them at all? No. Did that diminish their marketability? No. Because people knew that, they're still both charismatic as shit. They're still, top-tier fighters that we think will make a rebound, and we're going to invest in their comebacks. And the fact that they can, legitimately fight.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got to have that, and then there's that sensationalist aspect too. People want a spectacle. I mean, they want entertainment. It's not enough to be just a great fighter. To really get to that highly in demand level, got to have something else.
Yeah, it's like sometimes with the Ultimate Fighter, they actually pick people based on personality more than their fight skills, just for the production value of the show.
Yeah, and it seemed like in the early UFC days. Well, that's the Tank Abbott phenomenon. I mean, Rich, have you ever Googled on YouTube Tank Abbott interviews?
No.
He said things that were just so outrageous that were just. By the way, he almost died.
Oh, right.
His liver finally it just said the party can go on, but it's going on without me. I guess he was drinking so much that finally his liver shut down, so he had to have a transplant.
Yes.
He died 3 times on the operating table. He had about 5 strokes.
Wow.
And he's lost about 100 pounds, and I see him, and he was in the hospital for more than 100 days.
Wow.
Recovering from it. I mean, so a liver transplant is not a guarantee.
Yeah.
And it's a lifelong condition that he'll be on transplant rejection medication the rest of his life.
Right.
And he has a whole different demeanor now.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of strange seeing that, that sure not the old cocky guy that he was, but yeah, I would throughout the whole Ultimate Fighter show, would always look for the character of the season.
Yep. Actually, one of the guys that's in one of the funniest clips of all time, just I believe signed up for either the bare knuckle boxing or the cage boxing. I'm not sure which, but his name is Julian Lane. He's most known for when he was on the Ultimate Fighter. He wanted the dude to slap him as hard as possible in the house, and the guy slaps him and literally knocks him out with a slap, like out cold on the floor. And this kid's asking for it, like he's obviously been drinking, And he goes up to these guys, he's like, slap me! Gives me as hard as you can. And the guy slaps him out cold.
Yeah, he just, he never really could make much of a splash in the big show, could he?
No. It's gotta be resorting to other things now. And before I forget, Michael Moore, Tony mentioned him. One of the funniest things I remember about interviewing him is when I asked him kind of awkwardly about that George Foreman fight, and his answer was, toughest thing about that fight was I was about 3 minutes from it being the Michael Moore grill.
Yep.
That was his joke. It was a good joke. He must have told that to a lot of people, though. Yeah, he's interesting. Alright, guys, well, we're going to call it a night, and we're going to see you next year, I guess.
I'd like to wish you both a very happy and healthy New Year, and look forward to talking to you next Thursday.
All right, buddy.
Yes,
happy
sir.
New Year to you guys, and we'll enjoy this big card this weekend. Gus may have the champ.
I will send you my photos of my attire for New Year's Eve, which, as I said, is obnoxious even by my standards.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. We'll be waiting, buddy. All right, happy New Year, guys.
I'll just tell you this: if the ball in Times Square malfunctions, they can just lower me.
All right.
Well,
Happy New Year.
Get well soon there, Tony.
Thanks, sir. I'll do later.
Adios.